This is like a liberal meltdown. Now they're all fighting with each other. They don't know what to do in this new environment. You see, Donald Trump's around for a second term now. It was a total mandate by the country. And this is not the same Donald Trump as before. No. He's way more powerful. And that causes a lot of people to be running scared in different ways, shapes, and forms. Anyway, this particular meltdown happened because there was a reporter from the Atlantic that came onto the set and started to knock one of the appointees that Donald Trump has put forward for head of the Defense Department, one Pete Hegseth. He started to knock him, and really aggressively so, and then started to knock all of Fox News. All right, so there were allegations completely off the record, by the way. I should say that all the allegations about Pete Hegseth and any alleged drinking issues he had, totally off the record. But MSNBC had this reporting, and this one David Frum from the Atlantic decided to get kind of wild on it and say this.
Well, just given what one sees on camera, if you're too drunk for Fox News, you're very, very drunk indeed. So that's alarming. In 1989, President George H.W. Bush nominated John Tower, senator from Texas, for Secretary of Defense. Now, Tower was a very considerable person, a real defense intellectual, someone who deeply understood defense, unlike the current nominee.
So he goes on to talk about, how you really need somebody like this for defense, not Pete Hegseth. But do you see how he slid that little zinger in there to everyone at Fox News? That was kind of a lousy thing to say, right? And he said it completely seriously. I mean, the guy's not even cracking a smile. What a pleasant face to wake up to in the morning, not. Anyway, he got in a little bit of trouble. You see, apparently the hosts were kind of concerned that was sort of libeling, if you would, all of Fox News. By the way, their own MSNBC reporter had gotten all of these people, 7 of them, to go off the record with her from Fox News. So then to turn around and call them all drunks, maybe not the nicest thing to say, given that they had just divulged all this information, right? So none of it sits well. Plus, it's just more of the same, more of the ugliness, more of the nastiness. And can we not, please, get away from it for 2 seconds? At least at 6 something in the morning? Anyway, he got reprimanded by the producer. And apparently then Mika and Joe went on television and said, we really shouldn't say that about our fellow journalists over at Fox News. And they wanted to kind of lower the temperature just a tad. Well, this one David Frum from the Atlantic, he didn't like it very much. He took to Twitter and he started going rogue. I mean, totally rogue, and making this whole thing, how drunk is too drunk, for Fox News. So he's out for blood now against, talking about the hand that feeds you, against the very people that are putting him on television. Here he is, writing in the Atlantic. It is an ominous sign that Morning Joe felt it had to apologize for something I said. So he thinks that, they had to apologize. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the craziness within the libs now. Okay, they all hate Trump. That's a given. But some of them, perhaps like Mika and Joe, who read the handwriting on the wall and they know their company's getting spun off because Comcast doesn't want to have anything to do with the likes of Joy Reid, Rachel Maddow, or either of them for that matter. They are survivors. And they're saying, okay, well, wait a second. Maybe we should take a step back because clearly we did something wrong. Clearly we did something super duper wrong because guess what? No one agrees with anything we're saying. And so this guy's doubling down and they are trying to take the high road. They're like, okay, this is their producer. Okay, their producer sends out a tweet. And they're trying to get him back on the show the next morning to help explain some of this and to kind of have a civil conversation. And it's not happening. This guy writes, Joe and Mika have consistently expressed their strong reservations and perspectives regarding Pete Hegseth's nomination from the very beginning, and that stance remains unchanged. We would have responded in the same manner regardless of when these comments were made or what organization was referenced. And David Frum, basically, you know what, you're part of the family, won't you come back on and we'll talk about it, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So that's where we stand. There was this dust up. One of the Morning Joe regulars goes totally rogue. He says some nasty things about some Fox people. And suddenly, Mika and Joe have developed a conscience. What do you know? because they realize, their ratings are in the toilet. They're down 51% from the election. Nobody watches them. Nobody thinks they have any influence whatsoever. So they have to try and come up with another MO, right? Like another line. So here they are trying to deal with this rogue contributor in this morning presentation today. Watch.
Point of personal privilege.
So yesterday we had a good friend of ours on the show, and a guy who's been a guest for some time, a guy who he knows. He's been one of my heroes for years now, a great writer, David Frum. He writes for The Atlantic. David came on the show yesterday, and we're having a good conversation. But we were talking about the Fox News employees that actually talked to Courtney Kuby and other people at NBC News and said that he'd been drinking too much there. And it was devastating.
Concerned.
It was a devastating report. And David flippantly said, was joking, he said, if you're too drunk for Fox News, you're very, very drunk indeed. We went on with this segment. And just to let you know how things work here, I was asking Mika, should we address that or not? Because if somebody had said that about any news outlet, we'd usually say something about it to reference the entire network. So at the end, and I want to get the words right, Mika said this: the comment was a little too flippant for the moment we're in. We disagree with Fox News, but there's some good people over there. And we, of course,
a lot of worried about Pete Hegseth.
We're also, of course, talking about those people so worried at Fox News about America's national security that they were talking to an NBC News reporter
Coming forward
saying Hegseth was not qualified. So Mika said after, the comment was a little too flippant for the moment we're in. We disagree with Fox News, but there's some good people over there, including, of course, those talking to NBC News about their concerns. This got turned into a column and a headline that said that, well, let's see, what was the headline? The sound of fear.
Oh, boy.
No, that wasn't the sound of fear. That was the sound of civility. And saying that Mika had apologized. Mika didn't apologize.
No,
She simply said, it was too flippant. Now, I would recommend that if we're at a stage where a comment like this causes a meltdown, and I saw George Conway, another guy we have on the show, and
we love
George, saying, read this article, it's going to make you very sad, but you must read it all, because of the fearful times we're in. Well, there's some problem with the times that we're in.
You can't be fearful.
Okay.
You can't be fearful. Just because some people have said that we're fearful, let me tell you something. You can talk to anybody that's worked in the front office of NBC and MSNBC over the past 22 years. I'll tell you, I'm not fearful. You talk to anybody who served with me in Congress, they will tell you, not fearful of leadership. Now, not fearful. And I will say, I had a wonderful conversation with David Frum. He was supposed to be on today. He said he was going to be on today. We are actually going to tweet back and forth,
have him back on.
talking about having him back on today, just to talk through this, to say, again, I don't know, maybe it was the right call. Maybe it wasn't the right call. I didn't know exactly how to do it after he said.
But he didn't want to come back on. He didn't want to come back on because, you see, there's trouble in paradise and nobody's getting along now. Oh, my goodness. This is going to be an entertaining 4 years, isn't it? I mean, really entertaining 4 years, because they don't know what to do or where to turn. They have to completely remake their party. Think about it. I mean, Donald Trump has completely taken over the entire space that the left used to operate in as, like, traditional Dems. The blue wall is suddenly really challenging to get a hold of now, because the blue wall has turned red. The whole country has turned red because these elitist snobs, they go on Morning Joe and have their stupid point of view about stupid things and try and make you feel like you're nothing. If you don't agree with their point of view, guess what? They lost. They lost, and they're trying to come to terms with it. I'll tell you, they created some monsters in the process.
So if you think that you can vote for what people see as their destruction and then demand that they still are cool with you and kiki with you and have Thanksgiving with you, like, I think you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah. Like I said, some monsters in the process. That was Joy Reid saying, don't go to the holidays with your family if they dared. If they dared to vote for Donald Trump. You need to carry that grudge and hold on to that grudge. Well, I think there's a little bit of a schism, shall we say, within the Democrat Party, because there are the Joy Reids out there that just want to divide, and take their little 1% of the population and walk away with that. And then there are people like Mika and Joe that, like, I'm just telling you guys, they are total survivors. Like, they're like, how do we manage this? The day after the election, I couldn't believe it. I had to listen to Joe Scarborough tell us all he was a Southern white male conservative, and he understood why they lost. Okay. You know, he's like trying to make a run at Tucker's job, I guess. Like he's completely, he was actually in a suit and tie that day too. What do you know? So much for the hoodies. So they're trying to remake themselves in this show, but you see, they got all this baggage surrounding them, like David Frum, like the whole crew that goes on there, all the sycophants that just are there to worship Mika and Joe and hate on Trump. And now they don't know what to do. Suddenly Mika and Joe took off from Mar-a-Lago. We know what that's about, right? Again, survivors. So they go down to Mar-a-Lago, and apparently the staff at MSNBC is furious. And I'm betting one David Frum is a little bit furious too. Wow. So they're having some tough times, are they not, at MSNBC? Very, very, very tough times. I am asking all of you to keep an eye on the sound. I'm watching your comments in real time because we're trying to make sure that these audio board levels are correct. So keep me posted on stuff. I understand that the volume was kind of low on the Joe and Mika stuff, so we're trying to bring it up for you. So just know that I'm watching what you're saying, and we're trying to tweak it here in real time.